Loud. Where's the thing? Here we go. How are we? We are live with Chad Phillips. The fat camera's backwards. He's over there. There he is. And then
His hand.
Dr.
There we go.
Maha here. He requested we are the champions. So we'll leave that on for a little bit. I'm just going to introduce this bonus stuff. I believe this is going to be episode 79. Sorry in advance if I get that wrong. And Chad and I met because we were both guests on season 3 of Mark Williams and Kathy Armias. I like saying her name. It's About to Go Down, and we connected over that at the reunion show where they had all the guests from the season, and we chatted a bit. And Chad has a very interesting story, and my lovely wife here, the loveliest woman I've ever met, and we just had an anniversary. She was very interested in hearing your story, as of course I was, but she specifically, I'm just going to set up a little spoiler alert for anyone moving into this, is she's very interested in the outdoors, kind of escaping the nature, being one with nature, all that jazz. So, and I'll let her tell a little bit of her side, but we're going to jump over to Chad and tell us a little bit of who is Chad Phillips and what the message is. And as we said right before we went on, like why we should listen to you.
Yeah, I'll see if I can keep it concise. So, my day job is I run a small telecommunications company, and I'm basically a software developer. And in January of 2021, I was living in a comfy studio condo in Portland, Oregon. I had just turned 50 shortly before that, and was asking questions that felt to me very typical for my age. What does life mean? Have I accomplished anything that matters? And I've kind of always had the kind of personality where I kind of want to do things that are a little bit outside the norm. And so with that kind of energy I had, I didn't want to do the sort of stereotypical things you might think of for somebody in what I guess is commonly referred to as a midlife crisis, buying an expensive car and stuff like that. And so I was just meditating on this idea of what could I do? And it came rather intuitively. I just was, had opened myself to the universe, and over the course of 2 days or so, I started to get this idea, like I'm going to go into the woods and I'm going to build something and I'm going to film it and I'm going to see what happens. And I don't really know what I'm doing. And it's pretty important to say that I am definitely not a subject matter expert in anything I'm going to talk about. But I think what's unique about my experience is not only that I filmed it, but I did it rather intensely. From the time I got to my place where I'd purchased the 10 acres of land that had nothing on it. It was just no driveway, no utilities, no nothing. I was sleeping in my car while I was building my first house, hand washing my laundry, jumping in the lake for showers, like all of that at once, And so it was the novelty was in the extreme nature of the change. I didn't do it gradually, and I was filming all that and kind of trying to let people a little bit into my world, So it started there. It started with sort of like, I want to do something that feels meaningful and not waste this energy that I have at this stage in my life. And it very quickly began to kind of morph as I first started out here, it began to morph into more like, the question became more like, what I know what having comfort and convenience does for me, like what the advantages are, but I suspect that there's some cost to it too. Yeah. And so the MO became like, how can I bring myself down to as close as I can to the basic decisions of survival that were within my skill set? I'm not like a Survivor Man kind of person, so I needed to do it in a way that was within my skill set. And so to do that and to see what changed in me, what were there things I learned about, like, oh, I'm actually getting some things back that I had to give away when I took on, living in a place where all the utilities are plugged in and all that, it's like there's, modern life, that one of the nice things about it is all of those problems are just solved. Yeah. And one of the things I really became clear about is this is why people pay so much for a home and why you pay rent, not because it's nice to not get rained on, right? Of course, but like all of the survival problems are basically solved. You turn a faucet, water magically comes out. You flip a switch, light magically comes on. You do this and heat goes and changes for you magically. It's pretty impressive, And I went to a place where I had basically none of that. Wow. And have been trying to like figure, and I did it. Obviously, I feel very privileged to have the choice to do it. I know there's people that don't even have that choice. They have to live that way because that's what life has offered them. But I had the privilege of the choice, and I wanted to choose as close to survival as possible. So water, heat, electricity, I've really tried as much as possible to get down as close as I can. So that's kind of, that's the gist of it. That's the nature, that's the essence of the experiment I'm performing. I'm hoping long-term to kind of, what I'm shooting for is this idea of like a sweet spot, like finding some way to be more connected with how I intake resources without having it be such a struggle. But in the beginning, as I'm just sort of getting started, it's definitely been more of a struggle. The stress seems to be more like I took it on all at once in this rather extreme way that was it was novel. So people wanted to watch it, but it was also pretty intense. And I don't feel fully calibrated yet. That feels, I still feel a bit green in that. But like, here's a perfect example. Right now, I'm hauling water. I do it in a cart now, but the first time I did it by hand in these 5-gallon buckets, probably about 1,000 feet one way.
Oh my God.
That's how I get all my water onto my property for whatever I need it for, which is now showering and, just the minimal amount of water I use for washing dishes and stuff. And that's not something I want to do long-term, but I think to myself, what if I had a well pretty close and I had a hose and I put the water into the bucket right outside my house and I picked up the water and carried it in. I'm still in contact with the resource, but I'm not killing myself to get it. Right. So that's just an example of like how I've been thinking about how can I find these sweet spots that really put me in more direct contact, but don't have me living my 60% of my life just trying to survive.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah. So you're like adapting to the situation, trying to be as efficient as possible, but not lose the meaning of what you're doing, basically.
Right. And I'm pretty sure that's going to happen over time. I mean, honestly, a lot of it has just been me mostly on my ass, trying to figure things out, making mistakes and putting one foot in front of the other and not quitting. Like there's been quite a bit of that,
Yeah. Like you said, you went the other extreme of what usually midlife crises look like. Instead of buying everything expensive and, going on all the trips and doing all the things, you went the other way and like got rid of everything.
Kind of. It was sort of an alternate version of like going off to India and sitting in front of a guru. I kind of was more like I made nature and survival my guru instead of some person,
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how spiritual that can be, what you're doing.
For sure.
So you filmed all of this?
I filmed a lot of it. Yeah. I mean, I've had conversations with other filmmakers, and one of the things you learn early on is you can't catch everything. There's so many moments where you're like, shit, I didn't have the camera on. And so you just have to accept that you try to film when it makes sense. You're not going to catch everything. And then you go through the volumes of video you have to, I mean, I'll shoot hours of video and get 5 minutes of good content out of it. That's a whole nother thing besides just like surviving out there is all of the production that it takes to like bring it into people's lives,
Are you planning on making a documentary out of it?
I don't know. It was very interesting. I had one of the employees from my company asked offhand the other day, like, if you add up all the time that you've actually released in video, what would it be? And as soon as she asked the question, I was like, oh, I want to know the answer to that because I just hadn't looked. And I think at the time I probably have released an episode or two since then. It was 1 hour and 47 minutes. And when I totaled it up, I was like, oh my God, I've produced a movie's worth of content here.
Wow.
It's shocking. And it's like pretty decent, for somebody who has no formal training. So maybe, I don't know. I mean, I've also doing blog entries and I've thought, I've got ideas about potentially writing a book or a memoir or something. I don't know. I mean, again, it's very early in the journey, and so a lot of it is just getting my feet planted and I'm trying to generate the content as much as I can and sort of let it become what it's going to long term. I'm not trying to control it too much.
No, but I love that you're recording this journey because it is going to be part of the journey. This is the beginning of the journey, so it's part of it.
Yeah. Yep. I never even came close to releasing it, but I did at one point write the first draft of a book, and it was kind of autobiographical for a period of my life. And it was interesting as I continued to do that. It was about a year long that I was doing that. There's this sort of third perspective that happens that no matter what was happening, even if it was terrible, there was this voice inside me that's like, oh, that's going to make for good content for the book, which is a similar thing has been happening with this. Even if something objectively crappy happens, I have a setback. I'm like, all right, well, I can use that. You know what I mean? And so I try to take it and make lemonade out of it, basically.
Yeah.
So let's.
I can keep going.
I know. I appreciate that. That's why I don't always have you on. So
hey now.
let's reset a few things real quick as I'm trying to be the host here. Is one, and sorry for soccer ball and dog in the background. But one is, let's reset that timeline. How long have you been doing this now?
January 2021 is when he started.
I sold my condo at the end of January in 2021. I arrived in May 5th of 2021. And so, however, what is that? 9 months? You have to do some
coming up on March,
June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. Eight and a half, 9 months. And for 6 of those months, a little under 6 of those months, I was sleeping in my car while I was building the deck that the kind of sort of medium-term housing sits on now.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is not as bad as it sounds. It's part of what I found amusing was it's a 2013 Tesla Model S, which is like a really nice car. And so I'm driving around this like $100,000 kind of sports car, and then at night I sleep in it, and was actually plenty roomy. It would fit an entire single mattress once I got everything configured, and then, because it's an electric car, I could kind of just turn the heat or air conditioning on and get a pretty steady environment. So it wasn't, the sleeping part was fine. It was just so cramped. I was like literally my home was like 32 square feet or something. It was really small.
So what did you do with all your stuff?
Well, right now I'm sitting in my office in a nearby town. So I in order to do my regular work, working on computers, and also maybe even more importantly, to produce these videos, I had to have some kind of modern setup. I mean, just the video itself is like many terabytes of data. I had to have like a high-speed internet connection and a nice desk where I could sit and do the video editing. And so I have just like sort of my office and music stuff here because I play some instruments. And then some of it is just still sitting in storage, waiting for me to build a bigger place or even finish out a little bit more of what I've been building. And then the rest of it's in my home, which is, essentially bed and some, just your basics for survival.
Okay.
It's pretty low key right now, dishes, pots and pans and my bed. A little bit of storage.
And I'm gonna bring this to the challenge that you gave to Mark and Kathy on your episode. With them. And I think the statistic is in a modern home, each individual is responsible for 6,000 gallons flushed of water, right, per year.
Yeah. Yep.
Flushed?
Approximately 6,000 gallons of water are used you're just going to the bathroom that way.
I'm responsible for half of those at least.
She drinks a lot of water.
I do.
She drinks a lot of water.
Right. I mean, there's actually, that's the first phase of it. And the second phase, which is like it's just a little weird. It's always been weird to me is that water that goes down the toilet goes into some black box that, probably none of us I haven't ever been to it. And something magical happens. And then it comes back out of your faucet, which I always felt like scientifically probably fine, but like conceptually a little bit on the gross side.
Thank you for putting that image in my head right now.
It's just the truth. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so I'll bring it back to the challenge that you gave to them and anyone listening now. And Mark Williams lives in Brooklyn, and he was one of my teachers in high school. That's how I know him. And,
oh, no way. Cool.
Yeah. And then Kathy is in Oregon. I think she's in Portland, Oregon.
Yep.
So she's a little closer to nature, so she might be able to pull off the challenge you're given. Brooklyn's a little hard to. Basically, at the end of the day, you want people to have a poop bucket.
Well, the specific challenge was go to the bathroom for a month without using your regular modern toilet. And so that would probably be the easiest way to hit the target is some kind of composting toilet bucket. Mm-hmm.
What about using our doggy bags?
Well, what I would say is I wouldn't do that, but I think you would also learn things if you did that. I mean, to me, the crux of the challenge is to actually interact more directly with this thing that's critical to it. Really, it's this weird way. It's like it's critical to survival because if you just pooped on the floor, you would have a serious survival problem in a very short amount of time, right? So dealing with it more directly in some way, I think, just raises the awareness. So that would be one way that I wouldn't do, but probably could work. I'm trying to not have the visual of how that would go. You have to be very
I
accurate, I
haven't
guess.
thought it all
You
the
just have to
way
be very accurate, you know?
I haven't thought of it all the way through, like, I don't know.
Well, A for the idea. I never would have thought of that. But I mean, very quickly, it's very common, a composting toilet. Like it's a 5-gallon bucket. You build this little like wooden box to kind of contain it. You put a toilet lid on top, and then you just use some kind of organic matter to cover. So you do your business, and then you put a little layer of, I use sawdust, because we have plenty of it from the milling that we've done with the lumber. And the idea is you just cover it with organic matter to kind of seal off you want to create an oxygen barrier, right? So it doesn't smell. And then, it's been, then you just go, it's like a layer cake, right? So there's your business and you've got however many times you go until the buckets, you can't go all the way full because you're kind of, but maybe 3/4 full, and then you just switch out. So that's my regular way of using the restroom on my land. And then the other piece is the composting piece, which is just in my situation where I've got 10 acres of land, I just have a compost bin. It's like a 3x3 or 3.5 by 3.5 bin. I just dump in a pile and then put straw on top of it to kind of hold, to kind of buffer it. And that's nature just doing its job, right? You can get kind of a critical mass of that organic matter and it'll cook. The temperature goes up and it'll cook, and worms and whatever bugs will come up from the bottom and eat it. And in it's longer, like human compost takes longer to safely go through the composting process, but 2 years, two or a little more. Don't quote me on that. It's just kind of an estimate, but you can totally reuse your own compost in your garden. It's doable.
We don't have a garden just yet.
Part of the official system. Sell it. I don't know. But I mean, the point is, it's a natural process that then becomes something that can be used that's valuable.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of 6,000 gallons of water.
Is all over the goop poop.
Oh yeah. Ugh.
I mean, she sells candles that smell like her own private parts. So.
Oh my God.
This is the world that Chad is trying to escape.
Right. That's a good point. But I will just say, like, I love it. Like, I don't miss that modern thing at all. There's other modern things that I'm like, I'm not sure if I can make it long term, but it's in a weird way, it's kind of fun, and it's also feels very empowering, because I'm like, I need nothing from anybody to control this very important system. And so in that sense, it feels very empowering. And plus I know just statistically that it's good for the environment. And it really has that like circle of life thing all over it, right? Like, it comes out of you, it goes into the ground, then it goes back into your food, which goes into you. And it's just so obvious that it's like the circle of life thing. And so the whole thing just feels so much better to me.
That's so fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, what have you learned in terms of like the costs of modern life?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me think for just a second. So one of them, okay, here's the easiest answer. So, and I'll work with another, let's move off of excrement and on to another kind of survival thing. So now we're going to talk about like cleaning ourselves, right? And so when I first got to Maine is like famous for having like lakes and ponds all over the place. And so when I got here, I'm like, I'm going to keep it low budget and simple. It was May, so it was pretty warm. I'm just going to jump in the local lake and wash myself that way, which I did for several months. Yeah. And then eventually I'm like, I'd like to do this on my property. So I took a pallet, tossed it on the ground, and just dumped a bucket of water, or I had a gallon jug, and I would dump it over my head. And that was my sort of quote unquote shower for a while. And then I got really fancy and I built an outdoor shower, which is seriously like, it was a pallet between 2 trees and like some wood up top to hold a 5-gallon Coleman, the thing with the spigot that you can turn, and then a little shelf here to put my soap and whatnot. That's my shower, right? And I put a few hooks up so I could hang things. So it was like a lot of this process is like, what is the minimum I can do to make something that will work for me, right? Because there was just so much to do. So that is my current showering situation. Now, if you take a minute to think about that statement and realize that it is now February in Maine, and I'm taking outdoor showers, you might be like, how in the hell are you doing that? And the answer is that I've taken these outdoor showers in one form or another since it was warm. And so there's been this long process of acclimation that as it gradually got colder, my body was getting more and more range that it could tolerate. And so far, the coldest day I've taken a shower outside was 15 degrees.
Oh my
And
God.
it's not hot water. It's like room temperature water. I just kind of keep the water inside. So it's not, I'm not suffering. I will clearly say that. It's definitely invigorating, but I'm not suffering to do it. And it's so, I think that shocks a lot of people that I can do it. And what I would say is the very first time I ever took a cold shower, because I kind of been into cold exposure for a while, it's back when I was living in Portland, and the advice was like, just do it for like a couple minutes, at the end of your shower. I mean, it was miserable. I was definitely suffering, because my body wasn't used to being able to move through that range.
Yeah.
And so all of that, like that just gives you some information about one of the things going on in my life, but it also, we can circle all the way back around to the question you asked to say that one of the things that's definitely happened is I've increased my vitality, like my ability to operate inside of a wider natural range is very demonstrable now.
Yeah.
My house is not 68 degrees all the time. Sometimes it's 45 or less. And sometimes I screw up the fire and it's 85 degrees and my body can handle that very well.
Yeah.
These showers are very cold in very cold climates and I'm not suffering. And so I'm not some kind of like weird freak or superhero. I just put myself in the situation and my physical body adapted.
Yeah.
And so I feel more alive, like I can feel the vitality. Right now, I'm standing outside naked in the woods. There is snow all around me. And I'm thinking, this is amazing that I can do this, and it feels very vital. And so that is absolutely one of the things that's changed. And one of the things that feels like I surrendered. I mean, I didn't even know I surrendered it, because all I ever knew was like nice, long, hot showers. Right.
Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. I mean,
she's done a little bit of the like cold shower at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I used to love doing the Russian Turkish baths and go into extreme heat and then dive into the cold.
Yep.
But yeah, it definitely takes a lot of getting used to.
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't gone to the cold shower bit for various reasons. I'll readily admit my own just general comfort.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what he's saying is like the comfort that we have makes us less adaptable and less able to deal with adversity somehow.
I think
that
in my
feels
mind, I
true to me.
the fact that I can handle it. I know I can.
Correct. Right.
But I just don't want to.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
But a lot of people out there have never even played with that.
Right.
And then you debate on like, is doing that whatever once a week, jumping into an ice bath or even a cold shower, is that physiologically, is it really having an effect mentally? Is it building your strength and resiliency or anti-fragility is a whole concept I love talking about. Yeah,
me too. I'm a big fan. I've wanted to have, I'm going to get it made at some point, a t-shirt that says, I heart hormesis. Like I'm just dying to get that t-shirt.
that is the nerdiest thing I think I've ever had on this show. And
I
love it.
You want to tell them what hormesis is? You should tell them what hormesis is for the people that don't know it.
So for anyone not familiar, Hormetic Effect is introducing something that is a struggle, or as we're talking about here, something that's uncomfortable or unpleasant, or that the body adapts to. So when you work out, you're breaking down your muscle to ultimately build it back up stronger. Anyone who's a fan of the movie, what was it? I just blanked on it. The Princess Bride.
Yes. Oh yeah, the poison thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So he does the challenge with the guy, and there's poison in both glasses, and the thing that the challenge doesn't know is that he's taken years to give himself little bits of poison so that he is now immune to the poison, which is what vaccines are. And we're not going to go down the science of vaccines right now. That's a hot button topic. But yeah, so hormesis, hormetic response is exposing yourself to something uncomfortable that the body now is better able to defend against or be more comfortable with.
Right. So to tie into what you said about you being able to tolerate it, but like choosing not to. And this, I'm still in processing this.
This
but
is very cold. Very cold.
Uh-huh.
Go on. Sorry.
Okay, I'll see if I can remember where I was at.
As we sit in our comfortable 72-degree home.
Well, it is 0 degrees out here too. It's outside. It's 0 degrees. So
basically, what I think where I was going before you so rudely interrupted me was that there I'm shooting for a like a life planning strategy that introduces that kind of thing into my day-to-day living. In other words, I don't have to choose to be uncomfortable. My life is such that the hormetic challenges are built in. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot to be said for pre-deciding things and taking willpower out of the equation. You know?
Yeah.
There's a lot. It seems like there's a lot of science around like no matter how much of a superhero anybody is, all humans have this limited amount of willpower, and so to me, it's like you fix that by pre-deciding or by structuring your environment to take willpower out of the equation. And I think that's kind of the heart of what I'm saying when I want to calibrate. I want the challenge to be how I live and to have it calibrated so that I'm getting the hormetic response and not breaking my muscles and joints down. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I'll just jump in with a quick sort of similar example is when I work with folks on their nutrition, and I'm able to go to their house. I have to, and if I'm doing it virtually, I'll tell them to do this themselves. Everyone's a little more hesitant to do this themselves, but I'll go in there, I'll go through their cabinets, and I will put all the stuff that I think they should not be eating into a bag or box and remove it. Because if the chips are there, which we did buy chips last night, and you know, we do as we say, not as we do. No, but we you know, if the chips are there, you're going to eat the chips or the alcohol or the Twinkies or whatever it is. So it's just removing that. And like you're saying, the willpower, it's great. You go on Instagram, you see all the motivation, like, here we go. But yeah, at some point you're going to break down and have that Twinkie. It's sitting there, the ice cream, whatever it is. So similar kind of concept is we need to understand that psychology, lizard brain, all that stuff of if it's there, we're gonna defer to it. So you have to make conscious, intentional decisions, which you definitely did that. You live that.
I think I have a catchphrase for us. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
It's something like our ability to think, reason, and plan is always going to outlast our willpower. You have a lot more capacity to think, reason, and plan than you do to force your way through stuff. And so use that more available tool to position yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And similarly, I'm going to add another kind of sub catchphrase, if you can, from a recent book I loved that I read called Upstream. And the line there was, every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets.
Right.
So, you know, he applies that to the healthcare system, but that quote applies to the way you live your life. So if you're putting yourself in a you called it a tent yurt.
Yome, technically. It's a yome. So
the other way.
A yurt dome. Yeah, but basically a yurt.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're putting yourself in that situation, right, you've eliminated a lot of possible things, which takes us to I think what Maha wanted to talk about.
I do have a question. Yeah.
Go for it.
I don't know if you've done that since you've created your new life, but what's dating like?
Dating. I've been on 2 dates recently.
Ooh.
Yeah, neither of them have. The woman I've been out with hasn't been to my place yet, but I think she's interested. What I would say is, in probably the best possible way, it will and probably has reduced my dating pool. But I'm glad because if somebody
in a good way.
Well,
yes, if somebody was like, "Ooh, I don't want to date somebody who lives like that," I'm like, "Great." That's information that's very useful to me, and we just saved both of ourselves a lot of time.
Yeah,
you know. So although I will follow that up with, I have done about 20% of the work to build an indoor shower, and while I have totally proven to myself that I can shower year round in Maine, I'm like, this would really hurt my dating life if I didn't have an indoor shower.
Well, yeah.
So I will have one, but primarily it's because anybody who comes over, I think they're going to want to be able to take one indoors instead of doing this maniacal thing that I do. So
yeah, no, I was thinking about that when you were describing the outdoor shower. I was like, if I went out on a date with someone who only has an outdoor shower, I mean, it sounds exciting to begin with, but I don't know if that's something that I'd be like.
Well, if it's 70 degrees outside, it's fine. But
yeah, that sounds amazing.
It will. Hey, it will be eventually 70 degrees here. I'll have that day. That's coming. It's just a little less than that.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, of course you're narrowing down your pool, but like you said, you're just gonna find people or meet people who are more like-minded and aligned with the way you view the world and want to live your life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, then logistically, I'm not doing this in New York City. I'm in rural Maine. I mean,
True.
you know, some of the stuff it's really it's not odd. It makes total sense, but it's a bit strange experience I have where I'll tell people here, oh, I'm doing this or that. I'm building my own place. You know, I'm sleeping in my car. I'm taking showers, and I think the reaction here is like, cool. There's just no, because it's just a little harder to live here, you know? And so there's a lot of people that have kind of taken this homesteading angle or done things that are that hard. But people that are a little further away from that, then they kind of go like, oh my God, how are you doing that? You know? And so I'm already in the land of kind of rougher living. And so I think that the dating pool here is sort of a little more aligned with how I'm doing it, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that it's a little easier, at least where you're at.
For sure. And I don't know, I may not live like this forever, but I mean, I've committed to 2 full years and then kind of check in with myself. I figure if I go 2 years, I'll definitely, if I walk away after 2 years, it'll be like, all right, I did it. Like I actually lived that lifestyle in a way that felt pretty genuine to me. And I could feel good about it. Before then, I think I would feel like I quit, you know? So I've committed to that 2 years, and then, you know, I'll get towards the end of 2 years. And if I'm like, I really like this and I've got myself in a rhythm and this is how I want to be for a while, then I will.
Absolutely. I mean, you're just still going through some of the harder parts of this. So
I don't even, I mean, Maine is, I was just thinking, I can really easily describe, it's all about the seasons here in Maine. So you go from black fly season to mosquito season to tick season. To hunting season where you get shot in the woods, to snow season, to mud season, and back to black fly season. It's just, there's always an environmental challenge no matter what time of the year that you're in, right? And I haven't even done the full cycle yet. Like we're a month or two away from mud season. I'm like, I don't even know how in the hell I'm going to handle that on this dirt road in the middle of nowhere. So so I figure one loop, like let me get through one loop and then I'll actually know what it's all like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You forgot about rabbit season and duck season, but that's
yeah, but those are no immediate threat to me. Everything I told you is some kind of
going
threat
off of the Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's all right. My humor doesn't go for everyone.
But I really could get shot out here. I mean, that's not a joke. When hunting season starts, people are like, wear orange every day.
Yeah.
Make noise. Like you could seriously get shot out there. Don't screw around. And so I've been pretty careful about it.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. Absolutely.
Yeah, when we were debating where to move, we chose Colorado for the access to outdoors and hiking and skiing and everything. And but yeah, we were debating. I threw out North Carolina and like Tennessee, and she's like, too many mosquitoes. Nope.
Bugs.
No,
mosquitoes are rough. There's nothing poisonous here, thank goodness. That's one of the redeeming qualities is like there's nothing I know of that's like a poisonous thing can bite you and kill you. But
ticks can cause Lyme, right? Like
it wouldn't kill you, but I mean that's a semi-solvable problem. You just have to inspect yourself a lot, which I do during tick season. So it is a non-glamorous reality of living in Maine, but everybody has to, and they're getting worse because of global warming too. So it's just, you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, the mosquitoes love me. It's so fucking.
They love me too.
Every time. Yeah.
It's got to be a chemical thing, right? There's some kind of pheromone that you and I put out where they're just like, that's a snack for me, you know?
I don't know what it is. Seriously, what's your blood type? Maybe it's our blood type.
O positive, I think it is.
That's exactly what I
Really? Oh, there we go. They love O positive. Yum, yum, yum. It's like cupcakes to mosquitoes. Mosquito cupcakes.
Yeah. So what I'm getting is like you're continuously on a day-to-day basis. You've created this life, this structure that is not just forcing you, but also you want this obviously, but it's kind of putting you in positions where you're connecting with life directly every day, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's it feels like there's kind of a trade-off, inverse relationship, maybe I would say, between temporary discomfort and vitality.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to pretend that everything I'm doing I like. I mean, I'm not like, I get to haul water today, or there's some days where I'm like, I'm tired. I don't want to lug in a bunch of wood for it to burn, or it's late at night and the fire went out and I got to build it. I mean, there are some suck moments in this for sure. But what I would say is it feels very similar to the relationship I've had with yoga for a long time, where I would do these hot yoga classes back before the pandemic started, like 3 times a week. And it was not fun for me.
No.
You know, I'm sweating. Forcing is not the right word, but like putting myself in these uncomfortable positions. It was not fun is definitely not a word I would use, but at the end I felt vital. And I carried that vitality with me all throughout the other 23 hours of the day and the rest of the week and everything. And so it's got a similar flavor, but instead of this like class I drive myself to, it's just how my life is working. So, you know, when I carry, well, I was thinking the other day, when I carry, I have this like little, it's like a waxed kind of sort of bag thing that you kind of load up with firewood and then you can carry it. And I'm carrying it a few days ago. I'm like, this is totally like the kettlebell carry. I'm doing like the carry that you would do if you were like in a gym for the kettlebell. I'm like, I don't know who needs that. I'm doing it every day. You know, and I switch hands and like I try to balance it. So there's different ways that I can actually bring that in. So
literal functional fitness. You're literally it every day. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do have a gym membership here and I've been doing a lot of sled pushing.
Yeah.
But it's occurred to me like, I wonder how I can do this just in my life. Like, I can get a strap and after I cut a tree, I can like pull it, you know, instead of using a tractor. Like, how could I actually sled in the woods with what I'm doing? I'm pretty sure I could figure it out. You know,
the one I'll give you on that is when we were in Southern California, we would go to one dog park. There was a few different dog parks, but there was one dog park and we actually helped because it was on a bit of a hill or whatever. And one morning, the usual morning crew brought all their stuff. And we basically tried to get all the chips from one end kind of to the other. So it was a very functional fit. So that was like the sled. We had a tarp and we loaded the tarp up with a bunch of wood chips. And then we just dragged it to the other end of the dog park until it was little more evened out. So that's kind of that sled concept for sure. We took the last time we changed our tires, we took one of the tires, put a little piece of wood inside the tire and put a little attachment piece on it.
To be fair, one of our neighbors did it for us. We didn't do it ourselves.
we, the royal we.
Okay.
I don't know how to use power tools. I'm scared of that. I grew up in Brooklyn with. Yeah,
they scare me too. I'm learning, but they do. But I kind of like that. That the fact that there's some fear for me keeps me very alert. You know.
Yeah. Well, that's very a good alert. Thing. You need that.
It's a safety feature. I figured that fear.
Yeah. So we turned one of our old tires into like a sled, not sled, but like
it is a sled.
And we put weights in and we pull it, and exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's a very functional thing. Again, like I don't know if you have access. I know those Tesla tires are very, very fragile. So
there's some pretty giant. The gym I'm in is a functional strength gym. So we have those giant like Mack truck tires, the ones that are like 600 pounds. They're there. Yeah. Yep.
Well, the closest I've been to what you're experiencing is when I climbed Mount Killy in 2015. Yeah, 2015. Yes, almost 7 years ago. So I was on a mountain for a full week with no shower, you know, no luxuries, sleeping in a tent. But I did have some luxuries in the sense that I was not carrying everything, you know, the whole way. We had porters and we had a cook. So he was making us food every day. Obviously, it's not like luxurious food.
Yeah, still a porter. That sounds like that's more like a luxury hotel kind of term, you know. But you have them in the woods.
That's how you know most of the tours are on most of these mountains, unless you really want to do it yourself.
Right.
Well, unless you're doing like other
survival rate goes way up.
Yeah, obviously it's different. I'm not comparing what I experienced to what he's experiencing. That's what I'm saying. That's the closest I've been to what you're experiencing. But I do remember that. You know, that kind of struggle of like, you know, pushing myself every day.
Yeah.
You know, climbing at a higher altitude, doing some difficult things. And then especially obviously the last night, that was the most difficult trek because it was really high altitude. It was freezing. And like, you know, I was nauseous and the altitude would really hit you at that point. And it's just getting to the top and just the whole experience, living in nature for a week. You know, not in your own comfortable home, sleeping, in tent, showering, none of that. Just being with nature, literally. Pooping outdoors, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I remember feeling extremely connected to life and extremely alive, which is what you're describing. Basically.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. And I would imagine you probably felt some gratitude too, in terms of like when you came back, like all these things that you have.
Oh my God.
Right? Yeah.
The first shower I had when I came back.
Right.
was the most amazing shower I've ever had in my life. Yeah,
Nice.
absolutely.
Which is great, right? Because it's only took a week for you to get to the point where you felt that much gratitude. That's amazing. Like that's like a neuroplasticity thing, right?
Yeah.
And I experienced that in a longer version that's why I slept in my car, because my condo in Portland was 500 square feet. And I'm like, I'm going to move into a 265 square foot tent. I don't want it to feel like a downgrade. So the car was very intentionally a reset, and it totally worked. Like it just took, as soon as it was normalized, and then I did the thing that was nicer, I felt like, wow, this is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really cool. Like it's kind of a life hack type of thing, Yeah.
Totally.
So you're not like showering at the gym or anything, kind of sneaking those
I've been
in when you can.
Yeah, I've been pretty disciplined about it. So outside of a few, like overnight at somebody's house, or that's just a shower that way, or I've been in a hotel once or twice. Then I've showered. That was, I actually got stuck. I took a brief vacation to Puerto Vallarta in January, and I got stuck was it in Detroit? It was in Detroit. My connection missed or something. And I was there for like a whole day, and I was grumpy at first. Then I was like, I have this hotel room. Like this is so much nicer. Like there's all these little luxuries here that I just don't get to experience. But I guess I cranked the shower. It's like 20-minute showers. Like this is great, Whereas I think under my more modern life circumstances, I just would have been crabby the whole time. It was much easier for me to embrace what was there, what I could be grateful for, because I've turned the volume down a lot on that, and I kind of feel like I'm counteracting the sort of, almost like, to put it bluntly, it's like I'm counteracting like Amazon, where you can like click a button and 2 days later something magically shows up. And out here, it's just the opposite of that. It's like, I want wood, I have to cut it and plan it 2 years in advance. It is not 2 days, it's 2 years, right? And if I want it to go well, I got to like crank for days on end. And it's a totally different kind of thinking horizon. Yeah. It kind of resets my expectations so that I don't expect everything's going to go my way, Yeah,
absolutely. So you have been on vacation since you moved?
Yeah, it was 3 days, I think.
How
and
was that?
It was in the dead cold of Maine in January too. It was nice. Yeah. I mean, I definitely probably have to say I had enjoyed the experience more, because I was not only engaging in going to a nice place where it was warm, but also in these modern luxuries.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I think is important, just to be official about it. Like, I don't hate modernity or luxury or comfort. Yeah. I get concerned about the fact that we've crossed over where the vitality curve is. Like, I think this is something in my webcast with Mark and Kathy, I talked about this too. This idea, like, it's very kind of common knowledge that people love salt, sugar, and fat because there was a long time ago that was a survival advantage. You found that stuff and you're like, yum, 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 this is going to help me survive. And now we've crossed over the vitality curve and we're yum, yum, yumming, and we're actually getting less alive, right? Mm-hmm. And I suspect the same thing's true for comfort and convenience, where it was a survival advantage to make yourself more comfortable because life was so damn hard, right? And now I think we probably have crossed over, and clicking a button and having something magically show up 2 days later probably is not increasing our vitality. I'm just going to guess there, Yeah.
And I talk about that a lot. A lot of the injuries I see as a physical therapist are injuries of the modern world, and a disassociation between being primal and this genetics that we have. And that's the paleo diet as well, is it's a disconnect between things that we haven't eaten for so long and we're not adapted to for the most part, and that's where we see lactose intolerance and all these different chemicals,
peanut allergies, that kind of
peanut
stuff.
Allergies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on there. That's a whole can of worms. But there's definitely that dissociation or disconnect between the what our genetics want. And so, again, when somebody needs to lose weight, the common euphemism or whatever is eat less, exercise more. And that goes completely against our genetics, as you're alluding to.
Right.
Our genetics say eat as much as you freaking can, because we don't know when
exactly
the next one's coming, and move as little as possible. To your point, like, you're moving a decent amount. You'll probably end up moving more than most people sitting at a desk on a computer all day. Way more, I assume. Yep. But
when I'm out there, I am. Yeah.
But there's that huge disconnect of eat more, exercise. Eat less, exercise more, versus our genetics are saying the exact opposite. So there's some really fascinating stuff.
Which is why you make that's why it's it just feels like it's a stress in the modern environment, right? The fact that you are constantly you're constantly presented with that counterintuitive challenge that you have to bring your willpower to, right? Versus restructuring your life so that it's by structure, it's a little hard. It's not impossible. It's just a little hard.
Yeah.
Like just make it a little harder, and then you get a lot of vitality. Like there's a real payoff there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of food, so what's food like? I mean, what?
Yeah, I don't have much to add here. There were so many like vectors I was taking on. I'm not sure what the right word there is. I was doing my showering, I was hand washing my laundry, I was sleeping in my car. It felt overwhelming to take on food as well.
Yeah.
I've always been kind of like just buy something at the store anyways.
Yeah.
And so I just made this very conscious decision. Like, I'm going to tackle this at some point.
Okay.
I do want to plant some of my own stuff, but like, man, that's going to put me over the edge if I try to take on everything else I'm doing in that. And so I've pretty much eat in town. I do have some simple cooking implements out there. I can make some, dried stuff or warm up a can of soup or things like that. But I haven't gone crazy with that yet.
That makes sense. I mean, you don't want to, break yourself with trying to figure out everything all at once.
Yeah. I felt pretty happy with the hockey stick challenge that I had put in front of myself. And so food was one of those ones where I gave myself a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, for someone like Mark, who's living in Brooklyn, I mean, the poop bucket challenge is it's a lot to take on, especially with having a family, and just not having to set that up.
I've been meaning to research. What I want to do is research, because there has to be a way that what it's called in terms of what I know is called Humanoid. It's the Humanoid composting system. And so I would be shocked if there's not a way to accomplish the Humanoid composting system in New York. There's somebody's written about it, or there's some thing you can do to make that happen. So I want to find out what that is and then send it to them and go, see, like, here, just do it that way.
Get rid of that excuse.
Yep. It's gonna be where you dump it, right? There's no there's no bin in the woods you can put it in where I have. You got to have a place to dump it, basically.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the key. Where to dump it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Back to poop as always. Did you want to share your bad idea?
I know.
Oh, I love bad
It
ideas.
was more of a joke. Like, when we take Lexi out for a walk and she poops, we can just poop with her. And we can have a family walk for a family poop.
Are there any law enforcement concerns about that? Around that?
Probably.
Yeah.
That's why
You need to find the backside of a bush if you're going to engage in that kind of activity.
we live in a very little tight townhouse community.
Did you tell them about your first poop outdoors experience?
Yeah, before we left New York, we did a little getaway somewhere in upstate New York.
Yeah.
No.
Farm.
It was a farm. There was like sheep and lambs and all sorts of animals.
It's very, very pretty and green. And,
And at some point, we were just walking, admiring nature, and she was telling me about her Kilimanjaro experience. And I'm sure maybe when I was a kid, I pooped at some point in the woods, but not the same. But she's like, you gotta do it.
Right.
I was like, okay, and I did it, and it's definitely a thing.
Was it a bonding experience? I imagine you felt closer afterwards.
You gotta poop outdoors. You gotta experience it as an adult. It's an experience.
It's totally an experience.
Luckily,
I'm still trying to imagine this doggy bag thing you guys were talking about. Like, do you hold the bag behind you and like try to hit it, or like what are you envisioning here? Because I'm not seeing how that's gonna work.
No, well, some people do the whole
funnel. Is it a funnel kind of thing? Or?
We'll let you know.
All right. Because they don't have a very big opening, they're like that.
Yeah,
or
they're
something.
not very big. I know. Yeah.
I mean, we need to explore a little more. And if you're not familiar, Boulder here in Colorado is very, we call it hippie, which we're in the borders of that. So I'm sure there's all sorts of aspects of
I'm sure we can find something
connecting to nature type of concepts that are out here, and we need to look at that. And there's some farms that we go and shop at, and that's something I speak about too. Voting with your dollars and trying to impact things the way we can is definitely supporting those local farms that we know are doing things a little bit better than some of the bigger farms. And that's like you're talking about making change. As one individual, it's hard, but when we start impacting people, and I try to talk to folks about the same concept, like if you don't know the name of your local farmer, you know, we got some work to do, and you know, or even if you can order from some of these farms that are doing stuff more sustainably and support those guys at the very least. So that's a whole different conversation, like you're talking about the food stuff, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah. The game I'm in right now is I'm kind of a lead by example game where I really don't want to do any kind of teaching. You know, I really just want to be like, here's what I'm doing, and here's how I'm experiencing, and here's what I'm learning, and then kind of trust my viewers, if you will, to make that mean whatever it does in their own life. Although I certainly, like any artist, hope that I have some kind of positive impact, I think, you know.
And that's a perfect segue. I know we wanted to be respectful of your time. I think we're coming up on our time here. So where can folks watch this stuff and follow you and support you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, the website is lifetolive.one. So lifetolive.one. And then if you scroll to the bottom of any page, there's social media links. I've got a YouTube channel where I post videos. I've got Instagram, where Instagram's kind of like the fire hose, pretty much, kind of daily-ish updates of whatever I was doing that day. And I write some blog posts too that are kind of more on the philosophical side.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yeah. I think that's perfect timing how like we're having this conversation now, because I've been kind of going through a bit of like an existential crisis myself. I don't want to call it a crisis, an existential upgrade. Let's call it. Let's reframe.
I don't like the word crisis. To me, it felt, not even reckoning. I don't know. There's been a lot of positive energy, right? It didn't feel like, to me, a crisis is like something is threatened in a bad way. But to me, it felt like I've got all this amazing energy. I'm asking all these really relevant and important questions. What do I do with it? That's not a crisis. That's an opportunity kind of. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a transition. It's a midlife
for sure.
Evolution,
definitely. Yeah. I didn't want to be the same person. So I would say, transformation.
Sorry, saying upgrade might be a better word.
Upgrade, evolution.
There's a shift that needs to happen. So that's interesting. I feel like, I need to think about
it. Just remains to be seen if that shift includes the woods and a bucket and poop. That's for you.
You'll be the
it did
first
for me,
my friend.
Worked for me. Work for everybody.
You'll get all the updates there. So any other last questions before we let Chad go?
What was the most memorable, I guess, experience or moment in the last 9 months that you
man. I don't know if I can reduce it to one, but what I can say is that it's followed this rhythm where it's like a lot of things feel really hard. I'm kind of taking on so much, it feels overwhelming. And then there'll be these moments that are like these magical moments where basically just like nature will like grab a hold of me and be like, look at this, look at the stars, look at what the trees with the snow over them looks like. And everything will stop and I'll just be like almost paralyzed with amazement. They're just moments of like sheer spiritual grace that are interjected into this like slog of making, of transforming my life. And I've really appreciated those.
Wow.
Like it's kind of hard to imagine how I would have gotten that kind of, and the contrast even makes a difference, right? Like it's how challenging it was the moment before, and then how amazing it feels when I kind of have this moment where I wake up to how beautiful it is around me.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. And the one other thing I would offer is I love how tuned in I am to my stove. Like I'll just throw logs in, I'll go to sleep. And if the temperature drops a little bit, my body just like, oh, I got to put some logs on. Like I actually have like a relationship with it. And so that's an ongoing moment. Like I'll look over it and I just feel kind of warm, like it's like, wow, this is so cool. I tend to the fire and it tends to my need for heat. And it really feels like this little relationship happening.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. That attunement, even between you and the fire. That's amazing.
I know. Yeah. I would guess most people don't get that with their furnace. I never did. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know I got at least 1% better today.
Whee!
Thank you so much.
It's so fun talking to you guys. I love talking about this stuff, right? I'm embedded
You're
in it.
welcome back anytime.
This is a really
all right.
Thanks for sharing.
I expect updates when you figure out the doggy bag situation, please.
Oh, yeah.
I got to know how that's going to work.
We're doing a little getaway to Crested Butte this weekend, so maybe
so you've got it's a trial and error. You just do a little trial and error.
I think the temperatures are going to be definitely in the negatives.
It's going to be coming out of our butts.
Oh my God.
But we'll let you know. Thanks again, and folks out there, if you've tried anything like this, if you connected anything, please comment, reach out to Chad directly or us. We'd love to continue the conversation as always. So thanks again, Chad. We're gonna
Thank you.
go offline, and hopefully you guys get a lot out of this.